Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. Today we shall be looking at Donald Trump's responses to the protests across the United States of America and the rest of the world as a result of the murder of a black American, George Floyd, on the 25th of May, 2020. Does the angle of the renowned novelist Salman Rushdie in this introduction describes the U.S. president? Ours from TVN is to spot on facts with figures to help sustain democracy and human rights across the globe. This is the take of the novelist in this introduction. America should beware of Donald Trump from the novelist Salman Rushdie in the Washington Post of June 3rd, 2020. Let's take a thorough look at his story and deduce or compare whether they are true with the ongoings in America. He said, "In my life, I have seen several dictators rise and fall. Today, I am remembering those earlier incarnations of this unlovely breed. In India, in 1975, Indira Gandhi, found guilty of electoral malpractice, declared a state of emergency that granted her despotic powers. The emergency, as it became known, ended only when she called an election, believing she would win, and was annihilated at the polls. Her arrogance was her downfall. This cautionary tale formed a part of my novel in what is titled Midnight Children." In Pakistan in 1977, General Muhammad Zia al-Haq staged a coup against Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and executed him in 1979. This dark story was the inspiration for my novel called Shame. The circumstances of my life have given me some understanding of the dictatorial cast of mind. Extreme narcissism, detachment from reality, a fondness for sycophants, and a distrust of truth-tellers, an obsession with how one is publicly portrayed, a hatred of journalists, and the temperament of an out-of-control bulldozer. These are some of the characteristics. President Trump is temperamentally a tin pot despot of this type, but he finds himself in charge of a country that has historically thought of itself, by no means always correctly, as being on the side of liberty. So far, with the collusion of the Republican Party, he has ruled more or less unchecked. Now an election looms and is unpopular and flays about looking for a winning strategy. And if that means trampling over American freedoms, then so be it. "I have lived in the United States for 20 years, he said, and been a citizen for the past 4. One of the most important reasons for becoming a citizen was my admiration for the ideas of freedom embodied in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution." Trump, whose regard for the Second Amendment is well known, needs reminding of the First, which, if I may help, states in part that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And yet, the man whose incompetence allowed the pandemic to tighten its deadly grip around our necks and whose inflammatory language full of racist dog whistle has played a significant role in unleashing white supremacist bigotry upon all in America, stands in the rose garden of the White House and announces without an iota of shame that he wants to protect peaceful protesters. At that very time, just down the street, his security forces, some of them on horseback, are attacking a peaceful protest with tear gas and rubber bullets. A moment later, he characterizes the demonstrators as terrorists and characterizes their protests as crimes against God. He has the pictures to prove it. The fleeing young people, the clouds of tear gas, the line of horses advancing in the name of the law. If there is one thing Trump knows, is how to construct an image the cameras will like. This man, who before he got his present job was almost never seen inside a house of worship, then holds a Bible outside the church to demonstrate his piety. And if the bishop of the diocese denounces him soon after, accusing him of misusing the church in the service of a message antithetical to the teachings of Jesus, what of it? Once again, he has the pictures and they speak louder. But this time, we are so inured to the behavior of this man, so used to his lies, his inexhaustible self-regard, his stupidity, that maybe we are tempted to think of this as just another day in Trumpistan. But this time, something different is happening. The uprising that began with the killing of George Floyd is not fizzling but growing. The man in the White House is scared and even for a time takes refuge in the basement and turns out the light. What is such a person to do at such a time? If he is allowed to use the actions of a tiny minority of criminals and white extremist infiltrators to invalidate the honorable protest of the vast majority against the murder of Floyd, the violence of the police towards the community, and the entrenched power of American racism, he will be on his way to despotism. He has threatened to use the army against American citizens, a threat one might have expected from a leader of the former Soviet Union, but not of the United States of America. In my most recent novel, titled Quixote, I characterized the present moment as the age of anything can happen. Today, I say, beware, America. Don't believe that it can't happen here. Salman Rushdie is a novelist, he said. That was the preamble, the introduction from Salman Rushdie, the novelist. He's living in America there and is an American citizen. We are taking a retrospect and circumspect into what he has said. At the same time, in the studio with me is Comrade Solomon Adodo. Adodo is the national president of the Nigerian Youth Council, and is also a political activist. Today is in the studio of TVN to give his own, opinion as regard what is happening in faraway United States of America. But before he begins, let me welcome him. Comrade, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good day, Nigerians.
It's nice to have you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Before Comrade will come to speak to us about the events unfolding in faraway United States of America, let's take a short break with this clip of the CNN reporter that was arrested and later released.
When you talk within the community about, let's just say, what's happened with George Floyd, there's always a discussion that what's happening isn't new, it's being filmed. And that speaks to the power of having something happen on camera, because you can have people speak up for you without you saying anything. And that gave me a little bit of comfort knowing that you guys saw what was happening, I was living what was happening, and the country was seeing what was happening unfold in real time right before their eyes. Do you mind telling me why I'm under arrest, sir? Why am I under arrest, sir?
You are arrested and live on CNN. We told you before that we are all with CNN.
I think the moment before the arrest actually happened was we saw at least one protester or at least someone who was not media sort of run past us, and that person was cornered by State Patrol was the main unit that seemed to be there. And then after that person was apprehended, they then turned toward us. Now, and that was the first moment I could say that police had gotten behind us. So in a sense, we were sort of surrounded by state patrolmen and it seemed like Minneapolis police officers. Well, everyone, to their credit, was pretty cordial after that happened. So it seemed, I was actually talking to the officer that was leading me away. I was like, hey man, we're going to be out here for the next few days. What is the guidance of where we should be? If you don't want us that close, where should we be? Because we were under the impression that that was okay. And he said, look, I don't know, man, I'm just following orders. So I don't know who was potentially, giving that order in that particular moment. But as far as the people that were leading me away, there was no animosity there. They weren't violent with me. Sometimes when you're in this job, in these scenarios, there's a lot of adrenaline pumping. You're trying to focus and balance so many different factors. In a case like this, I'm trying to balance what the actual story is, how the storyline is advancing, while also trying to be aware of our surroundings, which at times can get dangerous. So there's that mentality. And then the arrest happened. I was still trying to communicate with you all as this was going on because I was just as confused as you. We had been showing our credentials throughout this entire week, and especially in the moments leading up to that, so I couldn't really understand what was going on. But as we were walking away and you're sort of taking in the entire neighborhood that had been completely decimated again from the passion of the protesters and unfortunately some of the rioting and looting that we had seen, it did cross my mind that what is really happening here? And the one thing that gave me a little bit of comfort was that it happened on live TV.
Welcome back. I will still show you more of footages of what we have got about United States under Donald Trump and the killings that are actually happening in United States of America. Comrade, you are the national president of the Nigerian Youth Council. What is your take on behalf of the Nigerian youths as regard what is happening in faraway United States of America, the killing of black people, colored people in America under Donald Trump? And what could you say? Are we to say that liberty has gone from the United States of America?
Right. Thank you very much for having me once more. We at the National Youth Council of Nigeria frown at all forms of injustice and inhumanity. We've looked at the videos of that incident and we see that that's the height of gruesomeness in murder. That's a depth of animalistic tendency of medieval order. It's not what we should be talking about at this time and age. Yeah. So we condemn it totally. The National Youth Council of Nigeria condemns such dastardly wicked and racist action. We condemn this everywhere and anywhere. And we need to use this as a plinth, a platform, or a launch pad to voice our grievance against all forms of racism. Not only in the United States, we saw what happened in China. In China, that is supposed to be a strategic partner of Nigeria and Africa, that we were looking to as our brothers from another continent, now victimizing anybody who has dark skin. That was a very bad move, and it is still ongoing, and we from the Youth Council are making serious efforts to reach out to all of these governments and also to the youths out there, because most of these things are perpetrated by young people. Right. And even if they are perpetrated by people that are not so young, they were once young, and they will grow beyond that, and they will have children. Exactly. So we need to put in a new culture that humanity should be seen as sacred, not just because you are European, American, Asian, or anything. Nobody is superior. We're all humans. The same blood runs in our veins and everything. And even if we want to begin to talk about superiority, if we sit down to analyze, dissect, and eviscerate, you'll discover that the African race is superior, if you want to even talk about superiority.
Yes, of course.
But we don't want to go to that level. We want to come to a level where we see everybody as our brother and everybody as our sister. So the National Youth Council of Nigeria, over and over, for an umpteenth time, we use our millions of tongues on behalf of the 100 million plus Nigerians to condemn that act. And also to call on the American government to do the needful, so that it should be stopped. Exactly. This is not the first, this is not the second, this is not the third or the 10th.
Oh, exactly.
It has been on and on. There are so many cases that have gone unreported. There's a video collection of various forms of brutality being meted against dark-skinned individuals in the United States of America. All of this should be put to an abrupt end. We condemn it totally. And as we are condemning what happened in the United States, we are also looking within Nigeria and within Africa. We also condemn all forms of victimizations against other humans or people from other races. Now, this now should also serve as a wake-up call for us here in Nigeria and indeed in Africa. If we are divided against each other at home, out there they will latch in or key into these divisions to break us down further. But if we are united, we will have a united front to sort things out. If the Ghanaian man sees the Nigerian man as a true brother, the South African man throws away his toga of xenophobia, which is getting entrenched in them, and the white man is still victimizing them even in South Africa, that is their homeland. They have areas where blacks cannot go. If the man from Mozambique, from Burundi, sees the man from Chad as his brother, we can do a whole lot more. Now, this is a challenge to the African continent, because I want us to look at the big picture. What is the origins of development in Europe and the Americas? They exported very hard-working individuals from Africa to fuel the industrialization in America and in Europe. And even in modern times, we have seen that Africans have brought innovations to bear. They have powered institutions in the United States. They have powered institutions in Europe. They have brought up inventions. They have brought up ideas, patents here and there. And all of those things, when they are threaded into the economy of the United States, it is what they now latch in on or stand upon or rely on or lean on to rank themselves as the world power. Why does this happen? Because they have sound institutions. If we can begin to look inwards in Africa and in Nigeria and other countries and say, let's expunge the greed, let's expunge the corruption, let's put patriotism and altruism on the front burner, I bet you, in time to come, we will be able to look a Trump in the face and tell the Trump, hey, stop what you're doing. So these are all issues that we condemn totally, but more action needs to be taken because the dignity of Africa has been denigrated, has been desecrated, and has been utterly abused. We must redeem our image, we must restore our heritage, and all hands have to be on deck to achieve this.
Thank you, comrade, for that wonderful take. And we, again, before we go into the second segment of your analysis, because I want to ask what actually the blacks, you know, we have black Americans who we're taken from Africa here, and they're like slaves, and then today, they proclaimed by Abraham Lincoln, they have become citizens of America. And even we have African Americans who went there by naturalization, become citizens, or by registration, become citizens, or even by birth, they became citizens. And then you see this stigmatization of racial bigotry every now and then. And we thought that Trump, who believes, who talks about Christianity, giving freedom to, you know, telling them to practice Christianity, practice the biblical injunctions. And if Trump could make a statement that he is going to send armies, the American army, against protesters, what does that portend for America as a nation?
Well, thank you very much. You see, there is no greater religion than love for humanity. This permeates the walls of all religion or religious creeds or philosophies or whatever name you might want to call it. From the major ones, Christianity and Islam, Buddhism, and all of the things you talk about. You know, Confucianism and all of that. You must have respect for your fellow man and a significant dose of love for your fellow man. Once that is expunged, all you are doing is hypocrisy, pure hypocrisy. So if deep within President Trump's mind, and I say this and I stand to say this anytime, anywhere, even in his very presence, if he eviscerates his mind, he opens up himself and he discovers that, oh, I hate the dark-skinned man, or what you call the black Americans, or what you call the African Americans, or as some may want to call them Negroes, or whatever name you might want to call them. If you look within his heart and you discover such seed of hatred, and he still lifts up the Bible and proclaims anything, he is nothing but a bald-faced hypocrite. And we must tell it as it is. So we cannot be able to synthesize what his mind thinks, but by his actions we will be able to have a trajectory of the flow of the direction of his thoughts. And so far his words and actions have not been encouraging. They are moving along the lines of hypocrisy. Let's just be blunt with it, you know. By my office, we should be conscious of all of that. But of course, we should also learn to say the truth as it is.
Exactly.
Because the American government will rise up today and tell you what you are doing is wrong. If they could go to Libya and say, oh, Muammar Gaddafi, what you did is wrong, we invade Libya. If they could go to Iraq and invade Iraq and kill Saddam Hussein, and if they could march into other countries and also sponsor insurrections just because of all of this. If you look at the history of even Africa, you discover that Europe and America influenced a lot of things. If they could do that because they had perceptions that some leaders were not doing what is right, then it behoves on us, both young and old, to tell it to the American government and the American leaders that what you're doing is hypocrisy and nothing but hypocrisy. You need to refrain from that. You cannot preach A and then be acting out X, Y.
Exactly.
If you are preaching A, act A. Your character should flow with your words, with your action. Everything should be in sync, utterly and totally.
Exactly.
So there are no half measures anywhere. You understand?
Yeah.
So these are things which we should be looking at. So we condemn this totally. And he should also know that if, in the manner which America pointed accusing fingers at these leaders I talked about, the world, America is not the father of the world. The world can also point fingers at America and tell America that what you are doing is wrong. And I am very certain that with some of these actions, if remedial measures are not taken, nobody supports any form of no normal human being should support racial discrimination. And that might just be the flaw that will sweep Donald Trump out if he does not do what is right.
Anyway, election is close by and the protests keep going. It's going on wrong. The protesters went into extreme, or let me say, violating normal rules. And we don't know, but we'll take a short break and listen to this young lady on why the protesters behave the way they behaved.
The reason why buildings are burning is because this city, this state, would prefer preserving that white nationalism and that white supremacist mindset over arresting, charging, and helping to convict 4 officers who killed a black man. That is the reality of what we're dealing with. This is not just a few cops doing things across the country. This is not a good cop versus bad cop situation. This is Ahmaud Arbery being shot down by white men on the streets of Georgia. Breonna Taylor being killed in her home. This is in New York City, where we were until freedom. We were just in New York fighting the police officers who, in the name of social distancing, were damn near killing black young people on our streets. This is a coordinated activity happening across this nation. And so we are in a state of emergency. Black people are dying in a state of emergency. We cannot look at this as an isolated incident. The reason why buildings are burning are not just for our brother George Floyd. They're burning down because people here in Minnesota are saying to people in New York, to people in California, to people in Memphis, to people all across this nation, enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target, because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve.
Talk about it, Tamika.
Where was AutoZone at the time when Philando Castile was shot in a car, which is what they actually represent? Where were they? So if you are not coming to the people's defense, then don't challenge us when young people and other people who are frustrated and instigated by the people you pay. You are paying instigators to be among our people out there throwing rocks, breaking windows, and burning down buildings. And so young people are responding to that. They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Charge them everywhere. That's the bottom line. Charge the cops. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for black people, and we are tired. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. We learned violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
You're welcome back. And that was one of the protesters against the injustices, perpetrated against colored people in America under Donald Trump's regime. Comrade, it seems that the protest is not about to stop at all. You heard her, and you heard the protesters, and they are planning even mega protests, not only because of Floyd, but it has awakened them over time because of the racial killings that have taken place without justice meted on those police officers. They said America needs to, first of all, give a solution by what? Charging the perpetrators of this racial bigotry and actions. What is your take?
You see, I stated it aforetime that this is a liberation of pent-up anger, pain.
They're not even looking at the looting that they are carrying out. They're not looking at the violence anymore.
They say those who make peaceful change impossible make violent change inevitable.
Those who make peaceful change impossible,
they make violent change inevitable.
Inevitable.
You see when people have been speaking, there have been conferences, there have been calls, there have been mild protests
for tranquility,
for peace, tranquility to prevail,
justice and equity,
racial segregation to be put aside, and all of these things, and nothing. And then you see, in fact, the murder of George Floyd is not just the murder, but the manner in which he was murdered.
Yes.
In broad daylight.
For 8 good minutes.
You saw a man deliberately knelt on a fellow man. It was like
and put his hands in his pocket.
It was symbolic. It was like the black race is trash.
Yes.
It was like I triumph over you.
Yes.
It was like I have dominion over you.
I have to put my hands in the pocket and say you are trash.
Was
I can't fathom
you
it.
don't need to exist.
God.
It was like, in short, that was the Holocaust.
It's the Holocaust.
That thing that happened in Minneapolis is the symbolism of the Holocaust. What should be done to those 4 officers is what was done to the Nazis.
Yes.
The Nazi
in Germany.
Germans after the liberation of Germany. That is what should be done to them.
Honestly.
They should be tried.
That was what that lady said.
They should be sent to jail and even killed. They should be executed.
If not, this thing might not stop, and Trump will not have his way.
When wrong is done, you come down from your high horse.
Yes.
This is a time to show firm and sincere leadership.
Yeah, from Trump.
Ordinarily, we would have expected a Trump as president of America who has demonstrated a good spirit. The American spirit, make America great again, and all of those stuff like that. We would have expected him to use this as a period of binding the nation together. Yes. We have lost an American life. On behalf of the American government, you tender an apology to the black community, very clear one, and all the lines of your word should demonstrate same.
Exactly.
After doing that, ensure that the attorneys prosecute these 4 officers to the tilt.
Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly.
The ones that should be, the particular one that knelt on that fellow's neck should be
publicly executed. Yes.
I don't know what word to use more.
Because if you arrest, you are supposed to investigate. You don't even know whether Floyd actually used counterfeit money.
Even if he did.
Because he wasn't the one that even went into the grocery.
Even if he did. Even if he stole. Even if he was a murderer. You don't murder someone like that in cold blood. Whatever the crime is.
And if you look
there
at
is
the
a
way,
justice system.
Yes.
And if you believe in the justice system, subject him to the justice system. And not otherwise. So what was done was a total aberration of what should be. It was a desecration of justice. It was an abuse and denigration of human rights.
All right. Thank you, comrade, for that, your take. And the lines are already open for you in case you want to participate into the program and give us your opinion about Trump's reactions and responses to the protesters about Floyd George Floyd's murder in United States of America, precisely Minnesota. Give us your call through 081 3701 5949 or 070 5432 7616. The studio men will display the numbers on the screen, and if you call, please be constructive and be civil. Go straight to your point as we discuss in the studio with you. Now, comrade,
yes.
Election is coming in United States of America, yes. And Trump is still eyeing the presidential seat, the Oval Office. With what is happening now, do you think that Donald Trump, his chances of picking the ticket of the Republican Party or winning against the Democrat is visible or feasible?
You see, prior to the last election held in the United States in 2016, and subsequently after the election, there was the rage that the election was influenced or rigged by Russian intervention.
Yeah.
I want to assure you that this time around, there might be interventions from Africa and Africans and from the black race across the world, not only in Africa, in Europe, everywhere in Asia, and even America, that may tilt the elections against Donald Trump. And this is very empirical. We've also seen what's happening in the African Development Bank and the role of the United States of America. We should ask some salient questions. Is it that the American government wants to deliberately underdevelop Africa? The American government under Donald Trump despises Africans and the African people and our governments and our institutions.
Call them black shit.
You know, and all of those things. You know,
and African countries, shithole.
Now, you see all of those
very
words.
rough in the use of language.
Those words, even if some of our leaders have failed, you should not use such words.
Yeah.
They are not diplomatic. They are not fine. They are crude. And so we need to mind the words we use. Now we also know very well that America has her hands in this issue of the African Development Bank,
yes,
where they are trying to push aside additional.
Which now,
him. You see,
left, right,
this
and
is a
center.
Man, when he was the Minister of Agriculture, brought a lot of reforms here in Nigeria.
They don't want growth,
and then,
for the African continent.
He got to the African Development Bank also, and then we are recording rapid revolutions across the African continent.
To prove that the Africans can actually lead
so
better.
on and so forth. We've seen, of course, if Additional was such a corrupt person, President Muhammad Buhari would not even want to identify with him. Because he's a man we have known to...
that detests corruption,
good,
100%.
Good. So you can see that Additional is being welcomed here, there, everywhere. All African leaders are celebrating him. But the United States of America is hell-bent under Donald Trump to push this man out. What is it? So we are also making demands on the American government to take her hands off the issue of the African Development Bank.
Okay.
This might be seen as a deliberate ploy to undermine Africa, undermine our institutions, undermine our leaders, and underdevelop the continent.
Yeah, comrade, what you do, send 2 of your men to us on Tuesday. We look into that.
Perfect.
African Development Bank and the issue.
Because all of this is a big pot of racism and racial superiority playing out. Yeah. And as I was saying, it will surely affect the outcome of the elections. Because once all of this is, we are in a connected world today. We give our feeds here from Africa to our brothers in America, and then to others who have conscience out there. They will flush him out. And he will be out, and he will be gone. So if you want leadership, what we need in this world is true leaders who believe in humanity, who believe in the agenda of love and respect for fellow humans, irrespective of skin color, irrespective of any other thing. Equality for all. You've hit it. Social justice, equity, and all of that.
Anyway, when we come back from this short break, that we will find out whether the Trump government, and we could also extend it, because he is the president of the most powerful country in the world now, if it is still so, you understand, and by that we believe that his actions or reactions could extend to another continent. We'll see whether this guy Trump is pro-black or not, because there has been this argument, especially myself. I used to believe in Trump so much. I believe that Trump has come to change America for good, you understand. I thought Trump is a man that goes straight to the point and call the white, white, black, black, red, red, you know, don't play games with anything. But I've seen the other side of Trump, you know, misusing power. And it is a thing that we have to address and set a new agenda for him as a world leader. And he has to call himself back and begin the leadership that he was elected to do. We'll take a short break with this video, whether Trump is pro-black or not.
To be honest, this is probably going to be and I'm going to say this at this table, the most pro-black president that we've had in our lifetime.
So had that asked me, I would have said, you know, before you praise this president, go black. Before you praise this president for caring about ethnic communities and marginalized populations, y'all didn't do your homework, they didn't do their homework. So let me tell you, just a little bit of research, not just him personally, but also some of his done their homework. They would have known that President Trump has ramped up mass incarceration by instructing Attorney General Jeff Sessions to revitalize the war on drugs. The 87 picks for federal judges, 85 have been white and just one has been black and one has been Hispanic. They would have known that President Trump supported the Department of Justice engaging in unlawful voter purges, making it difficult for blacks to go and vote. They would have known that Trump is ending protection for predatory lenders, which disproportionately harm black people. They would have known that he is ignoring the affordable housing crisis by ordering HUD to triple the rents of poor tenants in public housing, which mostly affect black people. Do your homework. They would have known that he is proposing cutting $200 billion over the next 10 years from supplemental nutrition assistance programs that will bring more hunger in black and brown communities. They would have known that Trump is worsening the health of black communities through environmental deregulation, which disproportionately harms black people through exposure to pollution. Now, that's just a few on the policy side, but you don't have to go too far to ask what about him personally would make me know that he is not pro-black. I'm glad you asked, because in 1970, Trump's real estate company tried to avoid renting apartments to black tenants and gave preferential treatment to white tenants. He began his 2016 presidential campaign with a speech disparaging Mexican immigrants as criminals and rapists. Y'all remember that? In 2016, he said of people of color, you are living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs. Hold on, I'm a product of a HBCU, and I'm a product of black school systems and black teachers. Don't you ever tell me that my black schools are... Hold on, I ain't done. He says you have no jobs, so what do you have to lose from electing me? In 2017, Trump said 15,000 recent immigrants from Haiti all have AIDS, and 40,000 Nigerians once seeing the United States would want to go back to their huts in Africa. He spent years suggesting that the nation's first black president was not a citizen of these United States. He called Puerto Ricans who's criticized his administration's response to Hurricane Maria. He called them politically motivated ingrates. Hold on, but he called those who marched beside white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia, he called them very fine people. He hired Steve Bannon, a white nationalist, as his chief strategist. He called Haiti and other African nations S-hole countries, and he's taking credit for an economy that has not been built on his administration, but was built on the backs of 8 years of hard work under the Obama administration. administration, Negroes, please, don't you come up in here talking about this is the most pro-black president that you have ever seen when the record suggests that he cares nothing about people of color.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome back. In just 3 minutes, I think we'll be gone from here. But President, my national president, you have watched the video whether Trump and his administration are actually pro-blacks or not, because America is America. And Abraham Lincoln said, America is for Americans, and America is a country for all under the libertarian theory. So what is changing with Trump's policies and enactments and schemes, and what advice would you give to Trump in your final words? Because I can't fathom it.
Well, we are not calling on Trump to be pro-black or pro-anything. We are calling him to be pro-humanity.
Exactly.
We are calling him to be pro-people. We are calling him to be pro-justice. Yeah. Do what is right. Be fair to all. We are not saying tilt your policies just to favor the colored skin or the blacks or whatever name we might choose to call. We are calling on him to do what is right. Be fair to all. And you see, for us here at the National Youth Council of Nigeria, much as we feel pained by what has happened in America, and of course they are our brothers and sisters, we have rather chosen to take the challenge from all of this. That is a challenge on Africa, on African leaders, on African youths, on the African continent. It is an insult that should wake us up from our slouching position. It's an insult that should stir us up from our slumber. So rather than take my pain, times, and moment to advise President Donald Trump, to advise all African leaders, let us rise up as one. Exactly. Let us begin to develop our continent. Let us develop our countries. Let's develop our communities. Let us see that leadership is about patriotism and altruism. Exactly. It's about addressing the felt needs of the masses. It's about working for the common good. We felt the United States of America portrayed, pretended, or showed. But of course, today with what is happening, we are seeing divisions there. There are already divisions around and along racial lines. Of course, the issue of religious differences has also been there in the United States of America. And like it is said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The economy of America has been affected in this few tests. Industries are grounded, while the Chinese industries are still rolling. Exactly. Their machines are rolling, they are working, they are exporting.
Maybe that's why he wants to unleash the army on the people.
Now, of course, that will now boil down to civil war and so on and so forth. And many things will emanate from there. And then it will be like a deadly embrace, the crumbling of the American state and nation. So I call on our leaders in Africa, let us rise as one. Let us redeem the image, integrity, dignity, and honor of our dear continent from our various countries.
Assuming I call on leaders rebuild this African continent, could we ask the black Americans who are citizens there already to come home and leave America for Americans?
Who owns America? Did they create America? Where were they?
When our fathers were building America.
Not even about our fathers building America. Where were they when American soil was created? Of course, we know the origins, how Europeans came, the Britons and all of that, so many other Indians. Things. But who created this world? Did we in Nigeria, are we the ones that created this place?
No, not at all.
Where did we come from? And then you are claiming that this is, where those Americans, those black Americans in America own America as much as those white Americans. They have nowhere to go. They will go nowhere.
Exactly.
Take that country. It is theirs.
All right.
So we are only calling on our leaders here to build a new and a great Africa so that these white supremacists will begin to be humbled and have some level of respect for Africa and for Africans.
But would they allow us? Would they allow our leaders to build? You saw the way they destroyed Libya. You saw
I want to state it
in Sudan.
I want to state it very clear on behalf of African youths.
Yes.
Because I am a young African and I will grow to be an African leader in my country and across the continent.
Yes.
But for now, we lead a constituency that is very significant and very critical.